We're about to look at one of those astonishing verses that really are unexpected and also that would not fit into the Jewish mind at all. Paul has a revelation from Jesus clearly here, and he's introducing it as a sort of teaser at the moment, maybe more than a teaser. He knows he's about to introduce something utterly dynamic and shocking in chapter 7 of Romans, so he has to start softly introducing it in chapter 6. But let me tell you, it's not simply an idea. It is an enormous revelation. And when you grasp it, and are not afraid to grasp it, you will find a developing freedom in your growing and maturing Christian life. Colin Cook here, and how it happens. Thank you so much for joining me today. You're listening to the good news. And the good news is always good. It's always news. It's always new, you see. I mean, I have been teaching this book of Romans for, well, a decade and a half on this radio broadcast, more than nearly 2 decades. And there is something new to my spirit every time. I hope you'll find that true for yourself. Don't say to yourself, oh, I've heard Colin say this for years now. Why should I listen anymore? It's all the same. Listen, I never make notes. That is, I never teach from notes. I may make notes when I'm studying, but I never teach from notes. I teach directly from the Word because there's always something fresh coming up every day. So, did I introduce myself? Yeah, I think I did, didn't I? Colin Cook, How It Happens, a broadcast on good news, training your faith here, and also training you how to break in to your various addictions, whether they be drugs or alcohol, food issues, sex issues, gambling issues, worry or anxiety. How to break in by faith instead of close down by faith. You see, most people close down. They shut things down. That does not solve a thing. It actually creates more tension and more potency to the problem you're dealing with. We have to open it up to God. We can open it up to God because of the good news of the gospel in which there is no condemnation. Now look, here's this surprising verse. Well, first of all, let me tell you, we're in chapter 6 of Romans. We're talking about life in the kingdom of grace, and it is freedom from wrath in chapter 5 of Romans. There's no more judgment upon us for us who are in Christ. There's no more abandonment under God's wrath. He does not send us out into the dark and the cold. He brings us into his kingdom, into his throne room, into his home, in the person of Jesus Christ. Christ, as he enters the throne room of God, seated with Christ in heavenly places, that means that we have as good as arrived. We have peace with God. We have access into this grace in which we stand. We even experience all the troubles and tribulations of this world in the kingdom of grace. That's chapter 5. Chapter 6, freedom from sin. Doesn't mean to say you will never sin again. It means you're freed from the judgment of sin, the identity of sin, the slavery of sin, the slave master, because he's been drowned in the Red Sea. That's why Jesus has said that he saw Satan as lightning fall from heaven. Jesus has his foot on Satan's neck. You don't have to fight the devil. You affirm by faith that Christ has already won the victory. Now, freedom from sin means that you are no longer then under its identity, under its slave master, under its judgment and condemnation and guilt. And then Paul makes this surprising statement. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under law, but under grace. I want you to pause. I know that you won't pause if I don't ask you to. You know why, don't you? Because you see, you've heard this verse so many times. You know this verse by heart, don't you? So you just race over it. You don't give it any thought. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under law, but under grace. But slow down now. Sin shall not have dominion. Now think of it. Dominion is a throne, implies a throne, implies a king, implies a kingdom. And this equates with verse 12, therefore do not let sin reign. Reign, the reign of a king, implies a kingdom. So we're talking about a kingdom. We're not talking about an act, not one of your habits, not one of your secret things, not one of the things that people do and it gets in the newspapers and all that and on the TV and the media. No, we're talking about a kingdom. This is not talking about sin that we do, but sin that does us, as I have said now 3 times in the last week. For sin shall not do you. Sin shall not have dominion. It's not a command. You shall not do this. You shall not do that. But rather, it will not. It shall not have dominion. It's not will in the simple future, which is the meaning of the word will, but shall, in the sense of command, not about you, but about sin itself. Sin shall not be allowed to have dominion over you. You and I sin, we fail. But we must keep telling ourselves, especially when we are in an addictive cycle or an addictive state, yes, I still have my habit, but it does not have dominion. It does not have dominion in that it is a sin that is ruled by Satan, in that it is a sin that identifies me as in that kingdom, in the sense that it gives me condemnation. I will not allow that to be. Do you see then that we have made sin, one of the reasons that addiction thrives in so many people is that we have made it too big. We've made it too big in our own minds. It is big because we're afraid of it. It's big because we feel so guilty about it. It's big because it takes up so much of our time and our identity. But it is time to start shriveling it. You don't shrivel it by choking yourself. You don't shrivel it by just trying to stuff it. You take a new understanding of its definition. It shall not have dominion, in that Satan no longer reigns. Christ reigns. Satan is no longer the boss. He is not in dominion. He does not have this kingdom. That's the kingdom of Adam, the kingdom of sin and death, to which I have been crucified in Christ. I no longer belong to that kingdom. You think of yourself now as somebody who has walked out of Egypt, has gone through the desert, who has passed through the Red Sea, and the sea has divided for you. You're walking out on dry land, and Pharaoh is on the other side in fury, and all his armies have been drowned in the sea. Now you're in the new Canaan, and you want to get up and do this and take a walk before you go to work, and you think to yourself, I can't do that, I'm a slave. You see, you've never had the chance to think freely. You've never had the chance to make decisions because you were born in that slave kingdom, where if you made a decision of your own and said, well, I don't like this slavery, I think I'll walk away, you'd be a dead man before you had a chance. But now you see you can make decisions because you are freed. You are no longer under that kingdom. Sin has no dominion over you. Now, I tell you this, as I said yesterday, I'm saying this to you as if I knew all about it. I don't. I know no more than you about it. I struggle with these issues every day. I have to put myself in this way of thinking. It's not natural to me. That's why I love teaching these messages to you on the radio, because they make me think in a different kind of way, do you see? Now, here's the next bit. Listen to this. For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under law, but under grace. You see, that's not what you expect Paul to say. You would think he would say, "For sin shall not have dominion over you, for you are not under sin." But he doesn't. He says you are not under law. Now, let's go back to the figure of speech that I used about Pharaoh. You see, Pharaoh makes you think that your slavery is a law. It is a law of Egypt, that Jewish people shall be slaves, and that they have no rights. They have no rights before the law. They have no rights before the throne of Pharaoh. Only Egyptians have rights. And so, you see, in slavery we feel we have no rights, and so it's a law. But now, you see, according to the gospel, according to the victory of Christ over the forces of evil, you are not under the law of that slavery. That's the incredible thing that Paul is talking about here. But there's more to come, because you see, Paul is going to imply in chapter 7 that the law of God is a slavery. Oh my goodness, how could that be? There's nothing wrong with the law. It is good and right. Paul makes that clear. But you see, we have a broken relationship to the law that has turned the law into a slave, like the devil himself. And that is why Paul is going to tell us that we are freed from it. But I want you to get this thinking slowly. Get it into your head, because you see, the law is in your mind, and it makes you feel guilty and ashamed and isolated and alone and abandoned by God. And that's what gives the law power to make you feel so bad that sin becomes the only comfort. Well, let me tell you, that relationship to the law is over. You are no longer abandoned, no matter how deep your struggle is. You are in the kingdom of grace. Grab a hold of it. Thank you for listening to this program every day. Thank you for enjoying it. Thank you for being willing to be trained by it. I hope it is training you. I hope you are training your faith by the instrumentality of this program. That's what it's about. It's not here to inspire, but to train. And as your faith is trained, you will find more and more freedom day by day, week by week, month by month, and year by year. Some people have listened to this program for years, and as a result, they gain more and more freedom as they go along, and more joy in the Lord, and more ability to serve Him freely. So, if you experience appreciation and would like to support the program as a result of that appreciation, then would you send donations to FaithQuest? You see, the radio broadcast runs every day as a result of your donations for nearly 18 years now. Well, if you'd like to make a donation, send it to FaithQuest, P.O. Box 366, Littleton, Colorado 80160. That's FaithQuest, P.O. Box 366, Littleton, Colorado 80160. I say this to you because I've just, the other day, sent the radio rent in, which was $836, and frankly, the money isn't there to cover it. So if you'd send in your donations, we'll cover it by the time they cash that check, which is about 10 days from the day they receive it. Thanks so much for your help. See you next time. Cheerio and God bless.